Okay, so have you ever had that moment where, you're looking at a student's work and you get this feeling like something just feels off?
Yeah.
Like they just aced an essay and, their prose is like, suddenly Hemingway after they were struggling with sentence structure last week,
Right, right.
with AI, like ChatGPT now, kind of in the mix. Like that feeling is, really becoming a head scratcher for educators.
Yeah.
So today we're tackling a question that really is top of mind
Mm.
for, I think, anyone involved in learning.
Mm-mm.
How can we tell if a student used AI to, complete an assignment?
It really is a fundamental challenge right now in education.
Yeah,
I mean, the power of these AI tools is undeniable.
totally.
But so is the need to ensure that, learning is authentic and that students are actually engaging with the material.
Yeah,
It's not about being anti-technology.
right.
It's about upholding the core values of education.
It's exactly. And to get some answers, I think we're diving into a really fascinating piece of research discussed in the G.R. Verlag ebook, Artificial Intelligence.
Okay.
And this article looks at how linguistic clues in the text itself, combined with machine learning, might be able to actually detect when ChatGPT has been involved in generating exam answers.
Interesting.
And your aim, which I think really resonates with me, is to protect academic standards because at the end of the day, it's that aha moment.
Yeah.
That personal understanding. That's what education is all about,
Right.
not just, a cleverly worded output.
That's precisely it. The article really highlights that true education is about building your own understanding.
Yeah.
You're internalizing that knowledge. And when AI steps in to generate content, it kind of bypasses that whole crucial process
Yeah,
and potentially undermines the whole educational experience.
exactly.
So our goal today is to kind of dissect this research
Yeah, let's do it.
and see how these detection methods actually work and what they can tell us.
All right, so get ready to have your perceptions tweaked a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to start with the very basics.
Mm.
How do these AI detection systems even function?
Right.
And then we'll zoom in on the specific methods and language features that this study analyzed.
Okay.
We'll uncover some, I think, potentially surprising distinctions between the writing of students who did the work themselves,
Right.
those who borrowed a bit too much from the internet, and those who went all in with ChatGPT.
Gotcha.
And then naturally, we'll also look at the limitations of this kind of research and where it might be headed down the line.
Sounds good.
So prepare for some light bulb moments as we unpack the science of spotting AI-generated text.
Absolutely. So let's begin by grounding ourselves in the technology that we're actually trying to detect.
Okay.
At the core, we're talking about large language models, or LLMs.
Right.
Like ChatGPT, as our source explains, these are deep neural networks.
Okay.
Essentially, incredibly complex machine learning models that require a huge amount of computing power.
Okay, so not your standard software here.
No. Yeah.
But what does it mean for them to be machine learning models in practical terms? Like how do they work?
Let's think of it this way. These models learn from massive amounts of text data,
Okay.
and they use these things called machine learning algorithms,
Uh-huh.
which are basically sets of instructions to find hidden patterns and relationships within that text.
Okay.
So when we want to know if a new piece of writing came from ChatGPT, the detection system needs to be able to classify it,
Right.
to distinguish it from text written by a human.
Uh-huh.
This is where text classification methods come into play.
And the study that we're looking at focused on two main ways to classify text.
Okay.
Rule-based and machine learning-based.
Yes.
So let's dig into rule-based first.
Yeah.
What's the basic idea there?
Sure. So rule-based methods rely on the knowledge of language experts,
Okay.
linguists.
Huh.
They create specific rules based on things like the meaning of words, how punctuation is used, and grammatical structures. These models often work like a flowchart or a decision tree.
I see.
So the source gives a good example.
Okay.
If a sentence contains words like best
Okay.
and ends with an exclamation point, a rule might classify it as positive.
Gotcha.
It's about identifying clear, predefined linguistic signals.
So it's like teaching a computer
Yeah.
very specific grammar and style guidelines,
Exactly.
and then seeing if a piece of text either follows or breaks those rules in a noticeable way.
Right.
So how does the machine learning approach then differ from that?
Well, this is where the computer kind of learns the rules itself in a way.
Okay.
Machine learning-based methods use something called a feature generator,
Okay.
and this extracts specific characteristics or features from the text. These could be simple things like the average length of sentences,
Okay.
or how often certain words appear,
Gotcha.
or more complex patterns in how words are combined.
Okay.
These features are then fed into machine learning algorithms. The algorithms learn from examples of text known to be written by humans. Right.
And text known to be generated by AI.
Okay.
Based on this training, the algorithm builds a model that can then predict whether a new unseen piece of text is more likely to be human or AI generated.
Interesting. And the source even mentioned these concepts like entropy and the Gini index.
Yes.
That sounds a little bit like advanced math class.
It can be a bit technical.
Can we break that down a little bit?
Sure. Think of entropy like the level of surprise in a text.
Okay.
So human writing often has a certain level of unpredictability.
Okay.
AI-generated text might have a different kind of predictability in its word choices. The difference in entropy can help the algorithm see these subtle differences.
Gotcha.
Now, the Gini index is a way to measure how well the algorithm is doing at distinguishing between human and AI text.
Okay.
Think of it like sorting apples and oranges.
Okay.
The Gini index tells us how likely we are to accidentally put an apple in the orange pile.
I see.
It's a measure of how pure our sorting is.
Okay. That makes those concepts a little less intimidating.
Good. And the study looked at two specific types of machine learning algorithms.
Yes.
Reinforced decision trees and feed-forward neural networks.
That's right.
What are those in simpler terms?
Okay, so imagine that reinforced decision tree we talked about with rules. But now the computer can automatically adjust those rules based on how well they're working.
Okay.
So it makes a decision based on a feature.
Uh-huh.
And if that decision helps it correctly identify the text as human or AI, that type of decision gets a boost,
Okay.
making it more likely to use similar rules in the future.
Gotcha.
If it's wrong, it learns to adjust its approach. That's the reinforcement.
Okay, I see.
Now, a feed-forward neural network, as the source mentions, is a basic type of neural network.
Right.
Think of it like a series of filters. The text goes through one filter, which looks for certain patterns,
Okay.
then passes the result to the next filter, which looks for different patterns, and so on. The network learns by adjusting how important each filter is and making the final determination of whether the text is human or AI generated.
Gotcha. So it gets kind of refined as it moves through.
Exactly.
And the study used one with a couple of layers of these filters.
That's right. 2 hidden layers.
Okay, so they're using some pretty sophisticated tools to try and crack this code.
Yeah.
Now, the study also spent some time talking about plagiarism in general.
Yes.
Before focusing on AI.
Yes.
Why was it important to kind of establish that baseline?
Well, defining plagiarism provides a crucial context.
Okay.
The study looked at 3 main types.
Okay.
Straightforward copying, paraphrasing with minor changes,
Okay.
and then hard plagiarism, where someone rewords and integrates ideas without credit in a way that's very difficult to detect even for humans.
Right.
Understanding these different forms of academic dishonesty helps us to better understand how AI-generated text fits into the picture.
Right.
ChatGPT isn't plagiarizing in the traditional sense of copying existing text, but it is generating text that a student might then present as their own original work.
Right, because ChatGPT is creating something new based on its training data.
Exactly.
Not just cutting and pasting.
Right.
So let's dive into the specifics of the study itself.
Yeah.
How did they actually set up this experiment to try and detect AI use?
Okay, so the researchers collected over 1,500 written answers from computer science students
Okay.
in response to 10 different questions.
Okay.
These answers were submitted through a digital interface.
Gotcha.
Importantly, the students were divided into 3 groups.
Okay.
Those who answered honestly, using their own knowledge, those who copied their answers from online sources,
Right.
and those who used ChatGPT to generate their answers.
Okay.
The researchers then analyzed these texts based on a range of features, including the total number of words, the variety of words, used the average length of sentences, the overall length of the text, and specific linguistic markers, like the use of particular types of phrases or grammatical structures.
So they're really looking at all these different elements of writing and how they might differ.
Precisely.
And then they took these 1,500 student responses,
Yes.
knowing which category each student fell into, and divided them into 3 different sets of data to train your detection models.
Yes.
So what was the thinking behind that?
So they created a basic set of data with just the raw text.
Okay.
Then they created a second set with a wide array of potentially relevant features, kind of casting a broad net to see what might be useful.
Gotcha.
And finally, they created a third set that focused on specific features that they believed would be most likely to differentiate between the three groups of students.
Okay, so they were really trying to hone in on what were the most telling elements.
Exactly.
The idea was to test which types of features, when combined with the different machine learning algorithms, would be the most effective at accurately identifying honest work, online copying, and ChatGPT-generated text.
Precisely.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. What did they actually discover? What were the key differences they saw in the writing from these three groups?
Well, the results were quite revealing.
Okay.
One of the most striking findings was that the students who answered honestly tended to use significantly fewer words.
Really?
Averaging around 225 language elements.
Wow.
On the other hand, those who used ChatGPT wrote the most, averaging about 380 words.
Wow, okay.
The students who copied from online sources fell in the middle with an average of around 350 words.
Okay.
And this pattern held up consistently whether they used the reinforced decision tree or the feed-forward neural network on the different data sets.
Wow, so if a student suddenly submits a much shorter answer than usual, that might actually be a sign of honesty.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It is, yeah.
But the researchers' qualitative analysis shed some light on this.
Yeah.
They found that the honest students tended to be more direct and precise in their answers, using familiar common vocabulary to demonstrate their understanding of the specific concept being asked about.
Right.
They weren't trying to be overly verbose or comprehensive.
That makes sense. They're focused on answering the question directly based on what they know.
Exactly.
So how did that compare to the students who used online sources or ChatGPT? What were the telltale signs there?
Well, students using online sources or ChatGPT tended to produce longer sentences and longer overall texts.
Yeah, sure.
They also used a more diverse and often more sophisticated vocabulary, sometimes including terms and concepts that weren't explicitly covered in the course material.
Oh, interesting.
This likely reflects the nature of online resources and AI models, which often aim to provide comprehensive and persuasive explanations, including background information and exploring topics in broader detail than might be expected in a concise exam answer.
Yeah.
So if a student provides a highly detailed or advanced answer to a relatively basic question, that could be a subtle indicator to investigate further.
Right? Or like for a teacher grading papers, seeing a student suddenly using very academic language or introduce concepts that they didn't discuss in lectures when answering a simple quiz question could be a red flag.
Absolutely.
That's a really practical insight for educators.
Yes.
It's not just about the length, but also the style and scope of the answer.
Exactly.
So what's on the horizon for this kind of research? Where are the researchers hoping to go next?
Well, the researchers are already thinking about how to expand this work.
Okay.
One key area is looking at detecting summaries generated by ChatGPT from multiple sources.
Right.
This is a more complex challenge because it involves not just generating text, but also synthesizing information from different places.
Right.
They also recognize that to train even more robust and accurate neural networks, they need significantly more data.
Yeah.
While 1,500 student answers is a good starting point, a larger data set would allow for more comprehensive learning.
Right. And the source mentioned a really interesting suggestion for instructors, proactively creating their own AI-generated examples.
Yes.
How would that be helpful?
So they suggested that before giving an exam, instructors could try generating example answers to their own questions using online search and ChatGPT.
Right.
This would allow them to develop a more intuitive understanding of the kind of language and style that these tools tend to produce in their specific subject area.
Okay.
It's about calibrating their own AI detection radar.
It's a clever strategy, getting familiar with the signature of AI in their field.
Exactly.
But the source also stressed a really important point about the limitations of these detection methods.
Yes, very important.
What's the key thing that we need to remember here?
It's crucial to understand that the predictions made by these machine learning models are not definitive proof of AI use.
Okay.
They are indicators that should prompt further investigation, not automatic accusations of cheating.
Right.
A high probability score from a detection tool should be a reason to look closer, to perhaps compare the student's writing with their previous work or have a conversation with them about their answer.
Yeah.
Human judgment is still essential.
Absolutely. These tools are aids for educators.
Yes.
not replacements for their own critical thinking and interaction with students.
Precisely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main message you think our listeners should take away?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that while AI offers incredible potential, researchers are actively working on methods to identify its misuse in educational settings. By analyzing subtle patterns in language, they're developing tools to help maintain academic integrity in this evolving technological landscape.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating and ongoing effort to balance the benefits of technology with the fundamental principles of learning.
And on that note, the research itself included a really powerful quote.
Yes.
And I'll try my best with the original German here. Künstliche Intelligenz ist also eine großartige Sache. Und sehr wichtig ist aber menschlicher Verstand. Ist das Wichtigste, man müssen haben. Unermüdlich fortentwickeln. Und verwenden habt den Mut, dich deines eigenen Verstandes zu bedienen.
Wow, very good.
In English, that translates to, artificial intelligence is a great and important thing, but the human mind is the most important. One must tirelessly develop and use it. Have the courage to use your own mind.
Powerful.
It's a powerful reminder of what's truly at the heart of education.
It really emphasizes the enduring importance of human intellect.
Yes.
And the need to cultivate it actively.
Absolutely. So as you consider these methods for, potentially identifying AI use, it makes you think, doesn't it? How might AI writing evolve in response to these detection techniques?
Right.
Could it become even more skilled at mimicking human writing styles?
Yeah.
And therefore harder to spot?
Right.
And what are the broader implications of this ongoing technological dance, not just in education, but in all areas where we rely on genuine human expression and creation?
It's a great question.
Definitely something to ponder.
Indeed, a vital question for the future.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into AI detection. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
For everyone listening, we hope you found this insightful, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of AI.
Until then.